Grassley, you're next.
Yeah. First of all, Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you for, in your opening remarks, you mentioned legislation that Tester, you and I and Fisher have in, along with 12 Republicans and 10 Democrats, called the Cattle Price Discovery and Transparency Act, which is meant to give individual cattle feeders that want to negotiate a daily price, and if they get a market, sometimes can't deliver their cattle for 30 days, to undo the monopolistic practice that the three biggest packers in the United States has with the big feedlots of Texas and Kansas and Colorado and I suppose Oklahoma, where they eat up 85% of the chain capacity every day, so that the independent producers that want to negotiate a price instead of contracting have a hard time delivering their cattle, and it's meant to take care of that unfair practice. Beyond that, before I get to my first question, I think because electric vehicles need rare earth minerals like nickel found in rainforests of the Philippines and Indonesia, and Ford's electric F-150 has aluminum tied to mining in the Amazon. I want to make very clear that it's just not agriculture that is responsible for a lot of the elimination of rainforests and the threat that that has to the environment and the unfair competition that a lot of these bad environmental policies bring to American agriculture. I'm going to start out with Mr. Berg. For decades, we have had issues with the European Union on how they view the use of biotechnology in trade. While Chairman Wyden has good intentions with holding this hearing and having this investigation, I'm concerned that our country is looking to increase trade barriers as a result of some of these issues. As your testimony points out, President Lula has positioned himself as a defender of the Amazon and has a plan to stop illegal deforestation of the Amazon by 2030, cutting down the road of implementing trade barriers or going down that road of trade barriers at this point could be counterproductive. I'm concerned that any trade barriers added will just mean additional tariffs for U.S. products into Brazil. And as an example, just this year, Brazil instituted a 16% tariff rate on U.S. Ethanol. They did this while having duty-free access to U.S. markets. So to you, what are the ways that we can work with Brazil to curb deforestation so that we can have a cooperative trade relationship without escalating into a tit-for-tat tariff war?
Thank you very much, Senator, for that question. I do think that the cooperative approach is the most productive for the bilateral relationship that we have with Brazil. I think we often tend to talk about divestment, imposing tariffs or sanctions to try to go after Brazil's deforestation. It's something we've seen the European Union use as well, the size of its market to limit goods. However, I do worry about some of the good work that's being done in all of the binational institutions that we have with Brazil, and the one that I would cite in this case would be the U.S.-Brazil CEO Forum, where you've got a lot of companies that are talking about cleaning up practices, bringing more transparency to supply chains and so on. That's a very cooperative approach, an example of one that I can give you, where the two countries are having a conversation that's attempting to move the needle, and where that would actually be at risk if we took too punitive of an approach. In general, I would say the risk with Brazil is that reciprocity is a very important part of their diplomacy. If we do something, they tend to do something back. It exists in the political domain as it does in the economic domain. And you mentioned things with ethanol. That doesn't surprise me at all. Brazil sees reciprocity as a very serious matter. And so I suspect if we take trade-related measures to curb deforestation on Brazil, we should very much expect there to be some kind of reciprocal action on the part of the Brazilians. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I thank